everyone. Thank you for coming and joining us for our community meeting this evening. And I think since it's 6 o'clock, we'll get started. We have an exciting schedule tonight. I'm going to give a brief update on some of the things that are going on at the county. And we also have our Citrus Heights Water District. Hillary is here, who manages the water district. Is there anyone here from who is part of the Citrus Heights Water District, who their water comes from Citrus Heights? Brian, okay, so a couple of people. So we're going to get just an update on some things that are happening at the water district. And then our CHP friends are going to be coming up to give a quick update to everyone. And so before we begin, I would like to invite everyone to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hi, Ray. So, some of you might have seen some rumblings in the news about the emergency no-fault eviction. I'm going to share a little bit about that. I've already posted something on Facebook about why I didn't vote for it, but I just wanted to, for those who are not on Facebook, just kind of share a little bit about that. And I'm also going to talk about a couple of other important votes that happened in the last week at the county. First of all, the emergency no-fault eviction, the whole conversation emanated from a board meeting that happened a couple weeks ago. And while we were having public comment, there were two individuals who came up and spoke during public comment and said that they were seniors and they were being evicted from their apartment and they were going to be homeless, and that the landlord in that apartment had evicted everyone. And so one of the supervisors at that time requested that we look at doing an emergency ordinance that would put a moratorium on no-fault evictions. And so for those of you who may not know what a no-fault eviction is, first of all, I just want to mention rent control. Most of you know I don't support rent control. Rent control was a policy, it was AB 1482 was passed this past year. And basically that is going to go into effect in January. And after it passed, there were a lot of property owners who might possibly, who have been kind of scrambling to get situated. You know, they're trying to make sure they're going by the rules. And there are some property owners that are going to possibly be impacted by that policy. And in the transition to January, there were some isolated situations that really had nothing to do with they may not necessarily have had anything to do with the rent control, but nonetheless were going on. So when we did our research, we found out that the complex was in the District 3, Susan Peters District, and it was basically a situation where the son, who was the fiduciary of the parents, and he kind of took over the management of his parents' apartment complex. It was like a 52 or 56 unit complex, and they had not been really managing it like a normal property manager would. They were renting, people that were in that complex were renting under the market over time. They were way below market, and it was run down. And so he was trying, in an effort to try to sell the property, he wanted to, vacate it so that they could do some improvements and sell that property, put tenants in it at maybe a little bit higher rent, get it fixed up and get it more aligned with what the market is, so that it's ready and he can maximize what he's getting out of it. My impression from what I heard was that the buyer for that property would pay, rental properties, they determine value based on what income you can make. And so if he just left it the way it was, he wouldn't make as much money. So he was naturally trying to maximize what he could do, but that had nothing really to do with rent control. And it was a situation that Supervisor Peters had been working on for the last couple months with the California Apartment Association, and they were working with each of those individuals who were being evicted to make sure that they found a home. So, I think right now there's maybe one or two left that we're still working with. So everyone got situated in that situation. Now, if you don't know what a no-fault eviction is, it's basically where if someone was not at fault, they did not do anything wrong, but their term is up, the term of their lease is up, or they're on a month-to-month, and the owner of that property has decided they either want to move in and occupy it themselves, or maybe have their children occupy it, or they want to end that lease with that person and maybe rehab the property and bring it. There might be a reason why they want them out, and so they just ask them to leave after their term of their lease is up. And historically, that's been a property right that owners had. And now I want to pause and let you know that approximately 44% of the people who, 44% of the housing units in Sacramento County are tenant units. That's around 660,000 units that are rentals in Sacramento County. And for every one of those rentals, there's someone who purchased those complexes, those apartment complexes, or those homes, or duplexes, or whatever it is, those properties. They put the down payment, they took out a loan, they take on the responsibility and the liability and the maintenance and upkeep every month, and they are required to maintain the property at a certain level. So when you put a regulation like rent control onto a property owner like that, what they are doing is a business, and they are spending money in order to maintain the properties, and the rents are the income that pays for all of it. And hopefully they make a little bit at the top. I remember when I was a landlord, I made, if I made 7% and 10%, I was happy, because it was paying off my mortgage while I was renting it out, and I was building my future at that time. So the no-fault eviction would basically have, and I want to mention that if this, there was probably a reason why the state legislature, when they did a rent control legislation, they put it out in the forward, they put it forward probably in a way that they could have made it immediately effective, but they did not. And so what we were doing was going to be good. It was going to be an ordinance that would go into effect, and it would be impacting evictions that had taken place right at this time. So if you're in the process of an eviction, which usually takes 60 to 90 days, it does go back. It impacts your eviction, and it puts a freeze on it and stops everything. There were thousands of property owners who would have been impacted, and the reason I didn't support it was I was concerned about the unintended consequences. I was worried that really it could end up being worse for the renters if they, if we have a situation where it isn't desirable to be a property owner and a landlord, they can decide to change the use of their property legally under the new rent control ordinance. They can just change use and evict everyone and sell the property and go somewhere else with their money. So that could actually end up reducing the housing availability more than what we already have a problem with. And that was, my big concern was around those unintended consequences. And I'm also, I'm also concerned about property rights and someone's ability to, if you have a contract agreement or a lease with someone and you fulfill your part of the lease and they fulfilled theirs, you should, in theory, I'm pretty sure in America, you should be able to say, I want to do something different. I don't want to renew the lease. That's a property rights issue in my mind. So anyway, after that vote, we are continuing to try to do everything we can at the county. If someone, not one person has called my office to say they're being evicted in my district from someplace and they're going to be homeless. I think Susan Peters had 2 people call her office through all this. And if someone does call our office, we are working really closely with those folks to make sure that they get situated into some kind of housing assistance and vouchers or whatever to help them find a place. So we'll see how this goes. The advocates that were at the downtown were, part of a tenants union. Some of them were from San Francisco, Sacramento. They were, not all of them were from even the complex that was the topic of the conversation. I don't even know if there was anyone from, I think there was 1 or 2 people from that complex there that night, but all the rest of them were from somewhere else, and they were not necessarily people being evicted, but people that were actually just advocating for rent control, I think. The other thing that we talked about the other day in our meetings, one of the things that we talked about was possibly having night meetings at the Board of Supervisors. And the vote did not carry, it didn't pass to have night. We were probably going to go to maybe 3 or 4 night meetings next year. The hard part, and the reason I didn't support it, is because at the Board of Supervisors, our agendas are so, we generally cover like 100 or so agenda items, and a lot of times our meetings go over. When we have controversial issues, sometimes we're there till 9 or midnight. We've done that before, and so going in the morning until noon and then taking a break and coming back at 6 o'clock at night, it just, for another 6 hours, it's just it's hard for some of us. We don't know that would necessarily, it would take me out of my district because I'm somewhere every night, but also I'm not sure my district would drive downtown to testify at night like that. I don't know that would benefit my district, and there were 3 others that felt that same way, so that didn't go over very well. The other thing that we talked about was the jails. We've been working for several years to try to figure out how we could accept this grant from the state. When they did AB 109, they did provide many $1 million worth of grant funding to help local jurisdictions transition, and because they were going to be receiving more long-term and more hardened criminals in our jails, and so they did provide financial assistance for our jails. And we've been trying to figure out, our sheriff has been trying to figure out how we can capture some of that money. We've spent, I think, a little over $8 million on working over years trying to accept this grant for this time. It had narrowed down to $80 million, and it was the projects that were going to take place. As a result, we were going to create some extra services in our RCCC jail that would actually reduce recidivism and help transition prisoners out into the community in a better way that would hopefully improve our screening processes and our mental health and medical. It would have fulfilled $51 million worth of the consent decree, which is a lawsuit that we settled on recently this past year, that over the next 6 years we have a lot of improvements that we will have to, capital improvements and services within our jails that we're going to have to improve. 51 million of it would have satisfied those requirements. And then on top of that, the county has a lot of buildings and facilities, and we can't just let them deteriorate. We have to maintain those facilities. And so there were about 29 million worth of just facilities upgrades that needed to happen just because the jails have been there for a couple of decades. And so we were not able to come to accept that money. And I did support it the way it was because I felt like it's clear that within the next 3 to 5 years we're going to have to spend that much money anyway. Well, at least 51 million. And we will have to do the facilities upgrades anyway in the next 3 to 5 years. So with that in mind, even if there was cost associated with improving them, we're going to have to do it anyway. And so I supported it, but the other, it didn't carry. I was the only one that supported it. And so I'm not sure what's going to happen now. The bids that were there will have to come back, and it will go into the next year. And the sad part about that is the way things are, construction costs and construction and labor costs go up about 15% every year. And with all this stuff going on with these lawsuits with these jails, that's going to also impact labor costs, and it's going to drive the cost of the projects up. So in theory, I'm anticipating that we may end up coming back with a project that costs just, we don't get as much out of it because we just couldn't take the money and run at that time. Sometimes timing is everything. But we'll find out if I'm hopeful that it can come back and the state will still work with us and we can find a way to convince other colleagues to support it. So there's other things going on at the county. Right now there's a lot of conversations around the next tax initiative. And there's another local tax initiative kicking around to fix our roads. And so there was, why am I not surprised? And trust me, they hate me downtown. But they did this polling survey, and we're looking at it right now. I mean, it's about this thick of a binder, but literally Matt is looking at. Matt is a genius when it comes to these. This is what he did at the state capitol. He knows how to read those surveys, and make sense of them, which is really nice for me because he's doing all that work. And so it's interesting because everything we thought should be prioritized is kind of what the county is saying, we think, but I don't know yet, so I'll be excited to come back and report to you the results of this survey. And those conversations, there's a rumor that there's a big press conference outside we're going to have another big day tomorrow at the county with our Sacramento Transportation Authority. They're going to have a big press conference, and all the activists for environmental, like biking and walking and that kind of stuff, which I love all that stuff, but they're going to be there because they want to make sure that they get included in that tax measure, so there's money coming to their stuff. And so I'm sure there's going to be, it'll be an exciting day, and we'll be listening to a lot of public comment tomorrow too. And so with that, we're going to do some Q&A later, but I think right now I'd like to invite our Citrus Heights Water District up. Hillary, are you our guy tonight? Yeah, Hillary is.
Guy, and our board member Ray Reilly is here as well. So
Ray Reilly, come on up. Ray has been a longtime board member. Hillary runs the Citrus Heights Water District and does an amazing job at that. And they have some new things happening. And I said, you know what? I think we might have some. How many people are with Citrus Heights Water? 1, 2, 3. Okay.
It's very tasty water, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to take personal credit for it, but I can't.
They're going to give you a quick
I'll let you
update.
do this.
All right, you want to?
I'm really not.
Oh, I wouldn't say that, boss. That's an elected official right there, along with Supervisor Frost. And Supervisor Frost, thank you so much for having us this evening. We really appreciate it. I think many of you who go to the CPAC meetings may have seen us at those CPAC meetings, so this was a great opportunity for us to come in to visit with our Orangevale customers. We have about 20,000 customers in our 12.8-mile service area, and about 1,500 of our customers are in the Orangevale community. So we're very grateful for the opportunity to come and to visit. Thank you so much for that. I would like to do some quick introductions. Again, one of our 3 board members, Ray Reilly, is here. We do have a 3-member elected board of directors. They are organized in geographical divisions, and this is Ray's division, and he's one of your neighbors here in Orangevale. So appreciate Ray taking time out of your busy schedule to come and be with us this evening as well. And he's available to answer any questions, and I am as well. My name is Hillary Strauss. I'm the general manager, and I serve at the pleasure of the board. We have a team of 35 staff, so we're very lean and mean, and that operates and maintains, again, a 250-mile pipeline network in a 12.8 square mile service area with about 67,000 residents. We're coming up on our 100th anniversary next year, 1920. October 1920 is when we were formed. We're a public agency. We're organized under the irrigation portion of the state law. By contrast, for those of you who are Orangevale Water Company customers, Orangevale Water Company is a private mutual, so you are a shareholder of that water agency, and it's very well managed. I know your general manager, Joe Duran, very well. We work very closely together on a lot of issues, and actually we use this. We have the same water that we serve to you, the customers, both in Citrus Heights and in Orangevale. So that's just a little bit about the water district, and there is a map here on the front panel here on the front side of the handout that shows our service area. We overlap the city of Citrus Heights by about 2/3, and then, as I said, we stretch out into Orangevale. We do pick up a little piece of Fair Oaks, and we pick up a little piece of the Carmichael area, and we even pick up a little piece of Roseville and unincorporated Placer County. So our service area goes across 2 counties. So with that, I'll just give you a brief overview of sort of where we've been, where we are, and where we're going at the Citrus Heights Water District, and then I'll be happy to answer any questions. And Ray also is here to answer any questions. Ray, by the way, is also the vice president this year of our board, so he'll be moving into the president spot in 2020. The other thing that's of interest is we're on a calendar budget year at the Water District. You might wonder, why are we here to talk about budget and financial and capital issues? Well, that's because we're in the middle of finalizing our budget for budget year 2020. So our budget runs, instead of July 1 to June 30th, such as at the county, we operate on a January 1 to December 31st budget year. So just a little bit about our district. So our major focus is operating, maintaining, repairing, and replacing the 250 miles of pipeline that we have. Most of the water that we receive and that we serve to you along with Orangevale comes from Folsom Lake via the San Juan Water District Wholesale Water Agency. That's an overlapping wholesale water agency to us, and we Citrus Heights are their largest customer. Again, 20,000 customer accounts. Orangevale Water Company, by contrast, is about 5,500 customer accounts, so that gives you an idea of the size and scale. When this area developed, mostly our service area in the period between 1960 and 1985, that's when we largely urbanized. The water mains that we have in our network of water pipes were basically installed with private development. We inspected those installations, and then they became donated assets to you, the ratepayers, for us to then operate, maintain, repair, and then the big R, replace. And the average lifespan of a water main is about 70 years. And so our big challenge and our opportunity at the Citrus Heights Water District is to get out in front of the curve of having to replace those water mains that are going to be aging out. And how do we do that? How do we phase out, cost out, and fund the replacement of what will be over half of our water mains? Because if you think about it, if the average lifespan of a water main is 70 years, and all this rapid development started in 1960. 1960 plus 70 is what year? 2030, exactly. So we are looking at a tidal wave of water main replacements en masse that will have to start having to be addressed and then rolling forward for many years thereafter, beginning in 2030. So if you look at the bottom panel here in the bottom left, the front side of this handout, you will see a little description about a project that we've dubbed Project 2030, and I see that you don't have.
I know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There you go. So what is Project 2030? Project 2030 is our advanced planning strategy on how to get out in front of this tidal wave of water main replacements that we really have to do. We don't want to kick the can down the road. We don't want to be in a reactive mode of operating. For those of you who are familiar or have spent any time in Southern California, you know that some of the agencies like LADWP are hopelessly behind in terms of those water mains. Maybe you remember in the news when the recently renovated Pauley Pavilion basketball arena at the UCLA campus got flooded out because of a huge water main break on the UCLA campus. And part of our challenge and our opportunity in terms of informing you, the public, about some of the key issues that we're working on at the Water District is that most of the infrastructure that we have and facilities you don't see. They're out of view. And that's purposely so. They're underground, and we don't certainly publicize our well site locations for security purposes. So that makes it a little bit more challenging for us because we got to get out there and to share a little bit of our story with you and some of the challenges and opportunities that we're looking at and how we bring those first drops of water to you, the customer, reliably and safely. So Project 2030, what is that? It is the strategy that we have adopted to how we're going to, again, phase out, cost out, and fund the replacement of what will be over half of our water mains in the period beginning in 2030 and then rolling forward for many, many years thereafter. So that is a major policy decision with major financial implications. So what we decided to do was to reach out to our customer base, and we formed a 24-member customer advisory committee. And we patterned it off of a very, very successful experiment that the city of Citrus Heights engaged in when they looked at whether or not they should form a municipal police department, which was a big issue for them. They put together a 21-member citizen advisory committee to look at all the options. They looked at, what would it take to continue contracting with the county for sheriff? What would it take to form a municipal police department, or what would it take to possibly partner up with the city of Roseville and do a bi-city police force? So we looked at all those issues with the Citizen Advisory Committee. It was a very successful process. So we took that experiment and that example and we adapted it for our use at the Water District. And so we created a 24-member customer advisory committee made up of 17 residential customers, 3 commercial customers representing the local Chamber of Commerce, the Sunrise Marketplace property-based business improvement district around the mall, and the Auburn Boulevard Business Association. We also invited several large public agency customers to also participate in this advisory committee, and that included the City of Citrus Heights, We included San Juan Unified School District, Sylvan Cemetery District, and the Sunrise Recreation and Park District. And we've also more recently invited Sacramento Metropolitan Fire District to join us as well and to weigh in on some of the options. And we brought a team of engineering and financial planning specialists to come in and to work with that 24-member customer advisory committee to look at various options on, again, how to phase out, cost out, and fund the replacement of all of these water mains. And so they went through 21 different options and winnowed it down to one, and now they've now finalized a recommendation, and that package is going to come to Ray and his colleagues during the first or early second quarter of 2020. And they will look at this strategy that would replace about 72% of all of our water mains beginning in 2030 en masse and carrying all the way through 2080. And the price tag on that, not adjusted for inflation, is about $390 million. Okay, so how do you pay for that? Well, we looked at a combination of pay cash and debt financing. And of course, you always want to try to minimize debt financing to the extent that you can. Why? Because it adds cost, interest. You have to amortize those costs. And you can even lose a little bit of local control because now you have to enter into these bond covenants that Wall Street has some say as to how much revenue you have to collect in order to keep a ratio of revenue over expenses. And so you actually lose some local control. So there's some negatives to debt financing. But there's also some positives too that you have to consider, and that is the issue of what we call intergenerational equity. What do I mean by that? Well, is it fair for folks who are, further along in life to have to pay for it all up front or to pay heavy-duty cash? So if you can smooth out those expenses and stretch them out through some level of debt financing, even if it's a small amount, you're basically getting at a little bit more intergenerationally fair, because now those people who are alive and our customers, they're paying for what they use, and when they're no longer our customers, they're not paying for it, and they're not stuck with that bill. So there are some counterbalancing forces to both pay-as-you-go and debt financing, and so the question is, how do you find that right mix? And so the heavy-duty focus is on pay-as-you-go with Project 2030, but there is a little bit of debt financing included in that package that will be going to Ray and his colleagues for consideration and for implementation. So now, if you want to see any of these meetings, all of them have been videotaped. In fact, we've started a YouTube channel. And if you sign up, you will probably be about our 26th or 27th customer. We'd love to have you. We want to get our numbers up. And if you hit the bell, then it'll notify you when we have new videos coming. And we actually have 3 coming soon, 3 new ones. But it's neat because you can actually go back and watch all these decisions and deliberations and all the information that led to these decisions on demand. It's convenient. We're trying to make it as easy for you as we possibly can. I myself, who have watched all of the videos, what I do is I put them on my phone, put some earbuds in, and I just walk around and I listen to it and I take the trash out. So I make it's easy. Easy. You can get a lot of things done and multitask while you listen to us plan out the future of the water district. All right, so that's a little bit about Project 2030. So another major driver for us in terms of our energy and our expenses and our commitment and energy is meter replacement. So how many of you like having water meters? I don't see any hands going up. I don't know why. So those were federal and state unfunded mandates. Okay, we had to do it. We didn't have a choice. And did you hear the part about the unfunded? Yeah, they told us we had to do it, and then they didn't give us any money to implement any of it. So that's always a challenge, especially when you're in local government. So that said, we did meter up. All of you have transitioned, I'm sure, to meters, or most of you have. I presume all of you have. We've been fully metered since about 2009. So we're only on our first generation of meters. And I said that the average lifespan of a water main is 70 years. Well, the average lifespan of a water meter is about 20 years before it starts to fail. We do have very good water quality here, so that helps extend the life of a water meter. But they still start to fail. And then the other thing that makes water meters somewhat more complicated than water main replacement is that the technology platforms keep changing out from under us. They keep getting smarter and smarter, even within a life cycle. And so the ground is constantly shifting in terms of water meters. But as we started to look at this asset management and life cycle replacement issue for the district, and again, all 20,000 of our customers have meters at different sizes. Most of the meters are 1-inch meters for us at the Citrus Heights Water District. We thought to ourselves, maybe this would lend itself very well to partnering with our surrounding agencies to take advantage of the economies of scale to become a much larger, more volume purchaser to get the unit costs down. You know, a lot of people talk about, wouldn't it be interesting to look at consolidation of water districts? Well, that is not necessarily the best option in all cases, or in many cases. There's a lot of issues with governance problems. There's issues in trying to integrate organizations. You get to a certain size as an organization, you actually start to lose efficiency. There's too many chefs in the kitchen. So, but what does make sense is what we call sensible integration. That is, let's partner with our surrounding water agencies where it makes sense on a project-specific basis, a policy or programmatic specific basis. And water meters was one of those areas where it really seemed to make a lot of sense to partner up. Well, so we just decided to go for it. And with Ray's support and the support of his colleagues on our board, we just decided, let's reach out to our surrounding water agencies and let's start a grand experiment. Let's see if we can break down silos and barriers and artificial walls, and let's work together. And we had very modest goals when we started this project. We thought, well, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 surrounding water agencies might be interested. Well, as soon as word got out, they just came out of the woodwork and they said, me too, we're interested. And so this thing blossomed up, and we just said to ourselves, you know, we just have to ride this wave. We got to go with this. Let's just try this grand experiment. And so we now have a water meter program consortium of 11 different water agencies, totaling well north of, I think it's like 300,000 water meters. So instead of being a purchaser of water meters at 20,000 customers, we're now 300,000. So what's the opportunity there? The opportunity there is to get the price down per meter, and maybe even to leverage to get better technology, like satellite read. I had an opportunity to visit the city of Beverly Hills. A water conservation staff person I used to work with works there, and she gave me a tour of these satellite read meters, and they're amazing. Well, I'm not so sure we could afford those on our own, but working together, that's the kind of thing we can look at. And it brings much more real-time data to you, the customer. You have much more data to work with in real time, and it gives us some back office data to work with too, to help you to better manage your water usage and to hopefully get your bill down. So there's a lot of really positive things that can come from these smart meters. But then the idea is to work together as a team with our surrounding agencies, what we now call our business partners, and see what we can do to get that cost down. So that's what we're doing, is we're working on a study right now to figure out how to do life cycle replacement by each agency and how to integrate our programs into one for the long term. So that's what we call sensible integration, and it's worth the extra effort to get this thing going. So we're very excited about this, so much so that the water industry has asked us to share our story. We have an association of California water agencies, an umbrella organization that does a lot of professional development, AQUA, that's right, professional development, networking, and some legislative advocacy for the water industry. They have a conference twice per year, once in Northern California and once in Southern California. It's very well attended. You know, several thousand elected officials and key staff, and they've asked us to do a 90-minute session on this to share our story with regard to this water meter consortium. So we're very excited to share that story and to really help maybe blaze some new trails here. So that's a little bit about the water meter replacement. The third major area, we've talked about water mains, Project 2030, we've talked about water meters in this consortium. Now let's talk a little bit about groundwater. So about 90+% of the water that we, again, serve to you, the customer, and this is true also of Orangevale. In fact, in Orangevale, it's about 100%, although they're starting to look at groundwater development again at this point. But we do have some groundwater wells, and we maintain those wells. We've had a network of wells since the 1940s. The reason we do that is for supply reliability and for price stability. And so we have a little bit more control of our destiny if we have those groundwater wells. And we're also doing our part to be good stewards in the region to help manage the groundwater aquifer here, which we do very well here in the Sacramento area. We're very much a leader in that in the state. So we have these 6 high-capacity groundwater wells that we currently operate and maintain. Each well runs about $3 million to develop when you factor in land acquisition, design, construction, and then rollout. And so hydrologically, we think in our service area we can go to 10. And that would allow us to basically be not 100% independent of surface water when we needed to be, but largely independent if we needed to in an emergency situation. And that's really the key, is to just create some redundancy, for, again, supply reliability. So we are in various stages of land acquisition on 3 additional pieces of property within our service area, and we even have a 4th kind of on the radar screen. And so we're going through that process to continue to grow and develop our well program. One technology that we're looking at, which is very interesting, is called Aquifer Storage and Recovery, ASR. And what is that? ASR would take our traditional one-way groundwater wells, which would just simply extract water out of the ground, to become 2-way wells, where they could take excess surface water and inject the water into the ground. And so why would we do that? Well, one is to better manage our groundwater aquifer and manage water resources, both in terms of surface and groundwater. 2, it turns out that our wholesale water agency, San Juan, is oversupplied. That is an oddity in California, isn't it? We actually have too much water in this region. A lot of water ends up going out the Golden Gate. And so, in the case of San Juan, they have about 30,000 acre-feet per year extra. And if they don't use it under water law, they will lose it. And so one of the things we're looking at is the possibility of partnering with them, where we will take some of their surface water and we will inject it into the ground. And so that is something that's really cool to be able to do. It's called conjunctive use, where we use different ways to manage the different both ground and surface water. So all of these initiatives are important and they're sustainable, but they cost money. So how do we try to work within the confines of what we have? Well, one, we operate very lean and mean. Again, we only have 35 employees, and we continue to remain a very lean operation, and all of us wear lots of different hats. We're not pigeonholed in one area or another. We're all multidisciplinary in the way that we do things, and we work as a team in various teams at the water district. The other thing I want to share with you on the budget side, we have about approximately $19.9 million budget. That's total operating and capital and reserves. About 3/4 of every 4 quarters that you spend with us goes to direct service and capital. So we really do a really strong job at trying to keep the overhead down. We extend the useful life of our facilities. The building that we're in was built in 1972. It was added on to twice. And we continue to try to extend the useful life of existing facilities. We have long replacement schedules on fleet. So we really do the best we can to keep those costs down. But that said, what we do look at is moderate to small rate adjustments so that we don't get behind the 8 ball. Because if you kick the can down the road, it will compound against all of us. And so that's what we're trying to guard against. And so Ray and his colleagues will be considering a very moderate rate adjustment in the coming month here in November. And we're doing the best we can to try to really smooth out those expenses. So that's a little bit about our budget. Even with the proposed rate adjustment that the board will be considering, it's still 10% below the regional average here in Sacramento. But we're very, very mindful of your dollar. So with that, I want to thank Supervisor Frost, myself, Ray Reilly. We're available for any questions if there's any time, and we thank you very much.
I've got a quick one and a comment for Ray. You're damn lucky with the size of yours to have a guy this articulate. He's pretty amazing. So good luck to you on keeping him. And we're not Citrus Heights water customers. I'm just making that observation. I am curious on one thing. Is your organizational structure where you are eligible to do tax-free muni bonds to see that money you need?
So the debt financing piece, they are bonds. I don't know if they're tax-free muni. That's something we're going to have to look at.
If they are, you're not stuck with Wall Street quite as much.
Sure. When we do the debt financing piece, we will bring on what's called a financial advisor. And there's several out there that are very well known, and we will look at the full gamut of the most cost-effective options out there, because that's the least desirable part of the funding that we're going to be looking at. So we will certainly be looking at those options and more. Any other questions about the Water District? Well, again, thank you very much for your time, and we really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Does Orangevale, are all the water districts thinking this way about updating their infrastructure? Do you know?
Many of them are involved in various stages of that, absolutely. At our district, we place a very high premium on customer engagement, so that's why we did the Customer Advisory Committee and why we really value this opportunity to get out and visit with all of the customers here at meetings such as this one.
It's good. It's really good.
Yeah,
Thank you. All right, and next we have our CHP friends here tonight. Do you guys have any quick announcements that you want to say, and see if anyone has any questions about CHP? Come on up. And then we'll just open it up for any questions that anyone has.
So I'm Anthony Dixon. I'm the ESAC COP officer.
Officer Holland and the East Sacramento Public Information Officer.
George Berrios, Sergeant in charge of the POP program, as well as I do run the day shift, which on a daily basis starts at 05:30, so if you're out there commuting.
Just real quick, we'll just talk about a couple of the stats that we talked about last night at the POP meeting. As far as citations for our Beat 3 zone, which is all at Orangevale and Fair Oaks that we cover, we issued year to date approximately 1,600 citations. That's everything as little as registration to speeding to all that kind of stuff. And that's issued, that's not traffic stops made, no verbal warnings, that's issued citations for violations. We've had a lot of questions about the logging trucks and commercial trucks on Hazel.
Thank you, Gail.
Our commercial team out of the division office, they came out and they spent about 10 days out here doing just random enforcement just along Hazel, very focused solely on commercial drivers and commercial trucks. They issued 105 citations, or
They made 105 enforcement stops, and of that, they made various verbal warnings and cited vehicles and put several trucks out of service.
yeah. And then I brought, as far as crash picture goes, our total year from 2017, we were at 672, and again, this is all our coverage area for Orangevale and Fair Oaks. We can't split that up in our statistics. And then 2018, we finished the year at 652, so down about 20 investigated collisions. And then right now, year to date, as of yesterday afternoon, 576 investigated collisions. So we are looking pretty good this year to be down from the last 2 years, so we can only credit that to the community, keep up the safe driving, and focus on the road.
That's really good.
And letting us know where the problem areas are, because you're the extra sets of eyes, and we do need that. We cannot be everywhere at every time, but if we know about the problem areas, we can definitely step up some enforcement. What I do caution you though, and I will say this, and I say that at almost every community meeting, that if you complain about something, don't be the one we stop. It does happen, so we just want to make sure that you're aware of that. It is your neighborhood, but you're subject to the same rules as everybody else. I will also state that unfortunately we have had an uptake in fatals in our region, the Rancho Cordova. Our office is seeing a rise in fatal collisions, and we know that you're driving safer vehicles. They're loaded with airbags, but unfortunately, those things are still not preventing what we want most, which is to drop that mileage death rate down. And it's gone up since last January, I believe. So we want to make sure that you're slowing down, you're wearing your seat belts. Those of you that have teenage drivers, please be cognizant that what you do, they're watching. So if you're on those cell phones, they're doing it too. If you're speeding and you have an excuse, they're watching that too, and they're using the same excuses that you're providing them with, okay? So we're trying to bring that picture down as best we can. At the end of the day, we're talking about your life and everybody else's that's sharing the roadway with you. And I always ask people when I catch them texting, even at stopped lights, is that text worth $200? No. If it's not, then is it worth your life or the person next to you? The answer is no. So put the phone down, please. I can't tell you how many of my colleagues have already been killed because of this. Okay? So it's near and dear to our hearts because we have lost officers as a result of this. All right? And we're here to serve you. We are your highway patrol. We are your law enforcement, and we're here to make sure that you get to your destinations, especially with these holidays coming up, safely. It's all about family, food, and fun, right? And that's what it should be. Alcohol, designated driver, Uber. It's cheap. It's still cheap. It's a heck of a lot cheaper than a DUI, I can tell you. The average DUI is going to cost you, and this is just for pleading guilty, is about $15,000. Just to plead guilty, it's about $15,000. So please, we're getting into those months, and I know we probably will have a gap in the next meeting, and I may not see you for the next holiday, but be safe, take your time, get there, plan ahead. Anything else, gentlemen? Oh, and you'll probably end up on Facebook, because this gentleman right here is
Please go ahead.
our public information officer. He puts all of our activity on Facebook.
We do appreciate the fact
That's
that you guys
awesome.
are using the social media. You're responding to the stuff that we put out on social media, because we want to communicate with you that we're out there for you, and we're working for you, and we're doing the best we can with what we have. We can't be, Gail, I know, you want us everywhere all the time, every day, 24/7, and there's only so many of us to go around. She says, give me a car, give me a badge and a gun and a car, I'll go out. And she would, which is great, that's awesome, that's excellent. But a lot of the stuff that you guys send in via email to our POP email, and you're calling into our office and you're saying, hey, this is an area that you may want to focus on, you may want to look at. We have senior volunteers. So if anybody's interested in the senior volunteer program, get a hold of me, please, by all means. I'll employ you.
Everybody said Gail.
Gail, what are you doing to them?
Right? So our senior volunteers, that's another access that we have. We can send them out to the schools. We get a lot of information on schools. Hey, the parents are coming and they're picking up and they're, being angry and they're being this and they're being that. So we get those senior volunteers as we can. We get the POP officer out as we can, Like I say, I wish we could be everywhere all at once too. But I can only be where I can be. So it is what it is. But we do appreciate the communication from y'all, communicating with us, and the kudos that we get when we post stuff on Facebook that you guys enjoy and you like. Some of it we try and make funny, just to show that we do have a little bit of a sense of humor, not much, but a little. And yes, for those of you that have posted, we do like donuts. So you got a
Some
question?
things never change.
Yes, well, since this is a local meeting, I just wanted to ask, about intersection safety. I know I've sent several emails to and corresponded to a Supervisor Frost's office about the Chestnut Greenback intersection and the issue of traffic signals there, and the fact that I've seen about 4 pretty bad accidents in the last 2 months. I'm directly impacted, being the next street down south of Greenback, not only from traffic, from people diverting away from that intersection that don't want to merge out, but also from people flying off of Greenback at 50 miles an hour coming down Chestnut Avenue going south towards Pershing. So that's an area I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions on, and if there's anything that the local neighbors and citizens can do to help further the cause to make it safer, I'd like to hear that as well.
So the best thing to do is send me an email at the POP email address. If you have it, it's 260pop@chb.ca.gov. Send me an email. I'd like specifics as far as times when you're noticing a lot of the people that higher traffic down Chestnut, or just when you're noticing the higher traffic down Greenback. We just recently got our engineering surveys back on Greenback, our entire coverage area from Folsom to Fair Oaks Boulevard. That's our coverage area for Greenback. We just recently, a couple months ago, got our surveys back and got extension letters, so it's fair game for LiDAR and radar out there. I thought it would have produced more. I've spent hours and hours out there. There are people that are driving fast. It's not as bad as I thought it even was, as far as the speeds that are coming up and down Greenback. But if you're noticing certain times of days, I'd like that at an email.
Yeah.
I can generate a formal complaint. We can track stats and data and everything.
Yeah,
like that.
thank you.
Absolutely.
A question, I thought they were moving that sign, or that's the worst place
Yeah.
to put a
The
Orangevale
Orangevale
sign.
town, we have
I think
literally,
that turned 10 times a day.
yeah, zero to do with that, unfortunately. I agree with you, and I don't know that we were even
Is that a
considered
city
You know
thing?
where that is?
the welcome to Orangevale sign. Is that what we're talking about?
Yes.
That's at the Chestnut intersection.
Yeah, I don't know that that we were even considered in the planning in that. That would be more the county engineering crew for traffic and roadways. Yeah, I don't think we were considered when they talked about placement for it. I agree with you. It wasn't a very logical place. So if I had my choice, I would have put it somewhere else for sure.
I need to Google that, where that is. We might be working on those
Chestnut and
signs,
Greenback.
so keep that in mind.
It's created a very short merge window, so somebody merging
Is it a,
left from Chestnut onto Greenback.
is it a line of sight issue as well?
I don't think it's so much a line of sight issue, it's an amount of space. So what's happening is if you have two people merging in and out of Chestnut, one person goes in the lane, or if somebody merges out of Chestnut going westbound onto Greenback, now somebody merging the other direction on Chestnut is forced to go in the middle of the intersection. And then there's a visibility issue because you're right at the base of a giant hill, basically, especially during...
You're in the valley of two hills.
Yeah, you're right in the valley, especially during the morning or evening hours when you have the sun at low angles and a lot of school traffic.
Yeah, we agree with you. Unfortunately, that's a decision made by the county traffic
Well, the
engineers.
master plan does actually show a light at Chestnut and Greenback, so all the more reason why there's a question mark about why that sign was put there. But again, it's county plan.
Yeah.
That is a county planning.
I saw one
You had a
car
question,
going
sir?
the opposite lane
Yeah.
to avoid a crash.
Right.
They hit head on into traffic
Yeah.
to avoid a crash.
Every day.
But I have another question.
Maybe we need to work on that, Matt. What do you, I mean, what do you think?
Let me get my notebook.
He's back there working on that hole, but, I mean, this sounds like a Matt job.
I was listening. Yeah, it's a problem, and the problem for the county is that they've invested in that sign, and it would be a waste of money to just take it down. And the problem is when you put a light there, the safety issue kind of goes away, in large part, because now you don't have to wait there anymore. Now you would have a protected turn, there'd be no more suicide. And once that's gone, I think our engineering team, when I tell them, and I repeat the same things you all tell me, which is it's stupid, why'd it happen, what are we doing, what's the fix? And kind of a lot of people nod and agree and say the fix is this. So we need to get there, we need to get funding to get there, but I don't know that just removing it and saying let's just waste all that money is the right path either. So we're kind of stuck in the middle of a problem here.
So my question is, I understand the light has been a discussion for probably 15 years or longer about when it's going to go in, but I mean, in all honesty, how many accidents have to happen before it's actually taken seriously? I mean, every time I talk to somebody, it's 2020, 2021, 2022, 23, 24. It's only going to take one life to be lost.
Just to answer the first part of your question,
Yeah.
which is, it's based on the number of fatalities, unfortunately. It's not the number of accidents. It plays a small factor. That's a small number in comparison to how they make that decision. There is no magic. It's
Yeah.
whatever gets the most attention, if you will. Usually that comes in the form of writing the people that are in charge of that. And then if enough of you get a petition going and that kind of thing, it's no more different than trying to get speed bumps or speed tables or reducing the speed limits in certain areas and things like that. It takes all of you to get together to do that. And if enough of you do it, then yes, you'll see movement.
Yeah, and just to repeat, this is how the process works. He just outlined it quite well. When you email me and say, Matt, we need that turn lane, we need it prioritized. We have a list of, literally a list of priorities, 1 through 50 on stoplights. When you email me, I email our Department of Transportation, it goes around there, and it goes into their formula, and it bumps it up the list. So take my card on your way out and email me and say, Matt, we want that light.
And then keep emailing
And
him.
keep emailing,
sending
tell your
it.
neighbors to email, because that is actually how you make change.
It might take a while, but
What we don't want to do is wait for enough fatalities to bump
No,
up
of
to
course
the top
not,
of the
yeah.
list. Does that make sense? So, and unfortunately, that's how most counties and most cities and most freeways in the state even does it that way also. It's, well, we've only had 3 fatalities in the last 7 years, so it's not, at the high end of where we consider a problem. And it's often, like he said, budgetary. So, and it's based on that.
Another question I have, Sacramento Metro Fire has a station there as well. Does that play into the fact that
I didn't hear the first
Sacramento Metro Fire Department has a station right at that intersection as well? Does that play into the decision of prioritizing a light for them to get out for emergency
No,
services?
because they got lights and sirens.
yeah.
Okay.
the truck. What was your question, sir?
You know the list of fatalities, do you keep a list of the cause of fatalities, what
Yes.
percentage?
Yes,
So what's
actually, the whole
percentage rate?
state for us.
Us right here.
Yeah, so I'd have to go get that information. I don't have that number as to the cause, but we do have primary collision factors. Those are knowns, right? So you have speed, following too closely, unsafe lane change, distracted driving is another one that obviously wasn't around before the cell phones, right? So, and then you also have unsafe turning movement. So there's about 5 primary collision factors.
Alcohol's not one of them.
Alcohol plays a factor in it, but it's usually in combination with one of those. Whether they were drunk, but they were following too closely, or they were speeding while they were intoxicated, or did they make an unsafe turning movement while intoxicated? So that becomes an associated factor. Does that make sense?
No.
So DUI would be the primary collision factor?
Yeah.
But the
And then-
associated factor would be the driving,
Driving, the unsafe turning movement.
drifting into the opposing lane.
Right.
Responsible
Right.
for
Correct.
everything that
Okay,
happens.
Brian's next.
Yes.
Thank you for your service to our community.
You're welcome,
Really
sir.
is appreciated.
Thank you.
all your
Thank
effort.
you.
My name is Brian. I live in the Whitmore Oaks area. And along the Kenneth Avenue corridor, there's been a long-term issue with spikes in the road. Do you have any updated information or how that situation is evolving?
So I have been reading you've been sending the emails, I believe?
No, I have not.
Okay, we have been getting emails on those spikes in the roadway and photographs. Unfortunately, we've got no traction. We don't have any witnesses. There's no data that we can go chase down. We've exhausted a lot of the leads, and we've been working with the sheriff's department because they're aware of it also. In fact, we've exchanged emails back and forth with the photographs of the spikes in the roadway.
Certainly.
So,
Okay, one more for I'll go 2 more for CHP, and then we have an important announcement, a really happy, exciting one. And I want to make sure we cover it.
Okay, you said,
They'll be here afterwards too, so.
okay. It says that 3 accidents was not enough, but you didn't mention how many is enough.
it's different, but we don't control what the county does. So whatever their benchmark is what they're going to decide and how they decide that. We
Can
don't.
you give us a top number, at least?
A top number?
Yeah.
Couldn't tell you, sir.
What was the question? I'm
That's in the,
sorry.
that's in the algorithms
How
from
many
the county.
collisions does it
Oh,
take?
okay.
Yeah, how many fatalities does it take to get somebody to do something?
Email Matt.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
He's here.
Email Matt, he'll know. Yeah, Jim, you got your, okay. Gail, did you have one?
Just in conclusion, could we have the winter advisory in terms of clean windshields, new wipers, adequate lights, and tires?
Yes.
You just gave
Because
it.
it's coming.
You want that
Are you
posted
sure it's coming? Because it doesn't seem like it is. Okay,
Very good.
I'm a
so
weak
good.
soul. I'm gonna go one more, and that's the last one for CHP.
Supervisor Frost, I wanted to just let you know about the problem we have over there on Santa Juanita. The Santa Juanita is at the end of Sacramento County. Half of the
I
street.
know right where it is. I used to drive there every day on my way home.
Okay. Well, we did have Matt Ramirez from the Rancho Cordova office. He came out there. He did a patrol last week. And he told me the lowest speed on that street
Is unsurveyed, and it has been for, I believe, 5 or 6 years. So the last engineering survey we have for Santa Juanita does justify a speed limit of 25 miles per hour. It does have listed, they listed 85th percentile, and then also the average speed. The average speed out there on the survey, and again, this was over 5 years ago that it's been expired, was about 45 miles per hour. I went out there right after the meeting. We are going to bring the radar trailer out there, so I was scoping out a spot so we can park safely and have the radar trailer out there. But I also used my radar, and the average speed for about an hour, again after the meeting, I probably had 20, 25 cars pass me. The average speed was about 38 miles per hour. And I know I travel the road myself. I live very close to that area, and the average speed between the daylight and the night I know is going to be drastically different. The road is narrow, and at night, I assure
It's
you,
dark, too.
even the crazy drivers are going to slow down a little bit just because of visibility in general.
Okay.
During the day, we are going to be spending a lot more time out there. I still would like that email That way we can get a formal complaint generated, but you will see the radar trailer out there in the next couple days. And then we are going to be working with the county on getting a fresh survey done so we can be more efficient with our speed enforcement.
Thank you.
Okay, and how many of you went to the CHP meeting last night, yesterday? So this was good, this was good for them to do this? Okay.
Could you
Thank
repeat your email once again? Sorry.
It's 260 POP at chp.ca.gov.
260 POP at CHP.
.ca.gov. Yeah,
Perfect.
and if you're on any of the Orangevale pages, I think they're on like the banners.
Yeah,
and-
I'm not a Facebook subscriber, so thank you.
Okay, and Matt
I want to
has
follow
also
up a little bit
some.
to your comment that you just made, to follow up a little bit of what you said about the county. The way it works in the county is, when he said it's expired, what he's saying is the county needs to, every set of years, go out and do a survey. And they'll go out with a radar gun, kind of like what you did, probably over the course of a few days, and they'll get an average speed. They'll take that average speed, they'll compare it to the last speed, and they're given some leeway to raise or lower that speed by small amounts. It's not a huge amount. But if the average speed is, say, 42, they get some leeway to say, okay, it could be 40, it could be 45. We can't go beyond that, but they're given leeway. But they need that survey. So essentially what needs to happen is they're going to go out there and they're going to see exactly what people are driving. And what's safe is to establish a speed limit of what people are actually doing. Setting it too low, setting it too high could be dangerous on both sides of that. So they're going to establish an average, and when they're out there, people need to drive their normal speeds, and we'll figure out what the safe thing is. And oftentimes we see huge differences over time, so you're probably right. You probably have seen a difference.
Where does Folsom start?
Just prior to the curve, or at that curve. So if you're going north where it curves, the county jurisdiction is all of the southbound lane if you're looking north.
So county has one side of
straight
it.
through the curve. Yeah.
Okay,
So we cover
so
all
this
the
is a
southbound.
Folsom County thing?
Yes.
It's
So-
not a county thing?
County, it's
Yeah.
both jurisdictions.
And as far as the collisions out there, I did a quick, I've worked this area for 3 years. I've lived here all my life. Since I've worked here, I can't find any collisions that have happened in our jurisdiction of the southbound. Not saying it doesn't happen, but we do need to talk to Folsom and see what their crash picture and their call volume is for their section of roadway. It doesn't automatically, if a 911 call comes in geographically, typically all the 911 calls in there will go to Folsom PD first.
Yeah.
And then if it happens to be on the southbound our jurisdiction or at an address with an Orangevale address, it'll be diverted over to the highway patrol. When the call comes in, we don't both automatically get it and figure it out from there. If Folsom PD gets the call, we virtually would have no clue anything ever happened.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Now, last but not least, I want to invite Julie King to come up. And I feel really bad, Julie, to do this to you, but I know you're not shy, so. I don't know if you're aware, but Orangevale has a new honorary mayor, and it's Miss Julie King. Hi, everybody.
Well, I wanted to, first of all, say thank you to the CHP officers that actually attended our Coffee with the Cop. That was one of our biggest fundraisers, as you guys know about the Honorary Mayor campaign, right?
They may not. You might want to explain it.
So the Honorary Mayor campaign was a fundraising campaign that was done between two Honorary Mayor candidates, myself and Jeff Shea. And we raised about over $5,000. A portion of that went to the Orangevale Chamber of Commerce, and then the other half went to our designated charities. Mine was the Orangevale Fair Oaks Food Bank. So I raised $19.63 for each of my charities, the Orangevale Fair Oaks Food Bank and the Orangevale Chamber of Commerce. And two of my biggest fundraisers was Coffee with a Cop, which was put together by Miss Sue Frost. She got our Sheriff Scott Jones out there, who here attended that.
That was awesome.
It was so much fun. We had such a great time. All of our, we had 40 law enforcement officers out there.
Yeah.
And we had about 100 of the Orangevale community members out there. It was great. And so I want to say thank you to everybody that was a part of it. And I guess I'm the first one in 6 years. So it's kind of revamped. And we're also going to be bringing on a junior Orangevale honorary mayor as well. So that's going to be our 2020
That's your
goal.
first thing you're gonna do?
That's one of our first things that we're
That's
doing.
awesome.
Yep. So, does anybody have any questions about the Orangevale Honorary Mayor campaign? Awesome.
And Brad Squires, who's the president of Orangevale Chamber, was in big part of the leadership, so was probably several people in here were. I just wanted to thank you for all that you do in the community and let everyone know they've got a mayor. So if you have problems, call Julie first.
And then I'll call Matt. And also, I wanted to let you guys know that the library process is actually still moving quite forward.
Yes.
I actually got to meet with a space planner for the salon, which means that we are one more step closer to getting this finalized. And it looks like December
17th.
is our big meeting. We're still holding on tight for that date.
It'll be that.
Everything's, yes. Our top executives approached me the other day and said, Sue, it's still going. It's just,
Good.
we ran into a couple, with all the plans, it's taking a little
Oh my gosh, it was a very
time.
complicated lease, so.
We're very excited. It just needs one more vote at the Board of Supervisors, but everything's in place and moving forward, so.
I think we're actually going to have
Yeah.
a larger library.
Yeah, so that's really exciting. So
Very.
persistence does pay.
Yes, it does.
That's really great.
So-
And thank you for being willing to move your salon so that we could do it, because that really was the most cost-effective alternative for
Yes, it was.
for the county.
Yep.
So it was not easy.
No.
I think it took us 3 years
Yeah.
from when I came on and put my whole self behind it, and it was definitely the squeaky wheel gets greased, I think, but we finally are getting there, and it's exciting.
Yep.
Can't wait for the ribbon cutting
Me too.
with the chamber. Thank you,
All
Julie.
right. Thank you for everything.
All right, I think with that, it's 15 minutes after. Gail, did you have a question?
One thing that came up last night at the POP meeting, if you weren't there, the Sac Sheriff has obtained the key for the service station to be opened behind Taco Bell on Madison. They have a property there, but it's like been a 5-year process. They have the key, they're just waiting to get chairs and desks. So it will happen this year.
Oh, do you know when? Or,
Oh, that's all they would say, we have the key. But we need desks and chairs.
Probably January, first part of January.
But they're already training service volunteers.
Yeah, they're training
So-
service, they just need furniture and just to get it equipped.
that's great. I know everyone's going to be happy with that Sheriff's Service Center. All right, well, thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you, Sue.
CHP and I will be here after if you have other questions, and I really appreciate you being here. And thank you, Hillary and Ray, for coming out and sharing about the water district. All right. Thank you. That's it.